Podcast. This is your host, AJ Richmond, criminal defense attorney and personal injury lawyer. I wanted to talk to you about what a focus group is. Now, in criminal trials and civil trials, our first time really presenting the case to a jury is right then, right at trial. And we may think we know our case, and we may have run it by our best friends and other friends that are lawyers, but we don't actually know what non-lawyers think about it, what jurors think about it. So I was invited by a co-counsel on a case that we both are working on, pretty big case, to go over what a focus group is and to actually have a focus group on this person's case. So we woke up and went there, and I was pretty impressed. Right off the bat, there are probably about 5 employees of this organization, and they're doing all kinds of things, setting up the AV, setting up computers, audio. Most importantly, of course, they were setting up the breakfast bar with hot coffee. But basically what we had to do was this focus group, this organizer, found approximately 20 jurors, 20 random people in the counties that we're trying these cases in, and said, hey, do y'all want to come in, make a little bit of money, and listen to the attorneys argue their case? And these people showed up, and they don't know us, we don't know them. They don't know anything about the case. They just know it's a case that is a case that's going to be in court. So in actuality, they are real jurors that can potentially be called to hear a case. Now, of course, they wouldn't be called in our case because they would have too much familiarity with it, but you get the point. So my job in this particular case was to be the prosecutor, and my co-counsel's job was to be us, the criminal defense lawyer for this particular person. So we each had to come up with our theme and present our case the way that we see fit. Now, the good part about this is my friend, my co-counsel, has always been a criminal defense attorney his whole career. So he played the part of criminal defense attorney. And he knows that I was previously a prosecutor back in the day and enjoyed every minute of it, and have used so much of that to help my career. But he knew that I would be able to play the best prosecutor. So that's exactly what we did. I was the prosecutor trying to put my client in jail, and he was the defense attorney trying to keep our client from going to jail. And it worked out pretty well. After the jurors had, some breakfast, some coffee, and filled out a few questionnaires, it was time for each of us to present our case, and we had approximately an hour. And we did so, and it was brilliant. Once we finished presenting, each side, they took a break, and the jurors were able to kind of talk about it themselves and figure out what do they think would be the verdict, just on their own, without deliberating, without meeting with each other, without talking to one another. They just write down guilty, not guilty, and why, right? Not guilty, there's not enough evidence. Guilty, plenty of evidence, and here's the evidence I relied on. So they did that. And then we had a delicious lunch, which was all brought in by this company. And then the fun part. The jurors, in a big they're all sitting together, let's call them 20 of them in a room, got to ask us questions. And this is the most critical part of the case, because we have random strangers that don't know us, that didn't really hear all of the case. They just heard the worst and best evidence. They got to ask us questions like, well, why didn't the officers do this? Or why didn't they speak to this person? And of course, the flip side is, why do you think you're going to win? Or aren't you all concerned about this particular witness that is going to destroy your case? Or this text message or this picture? I'm just using examples. And man, we got to learn so much. We learned what we thought was important. We learned that none of the jurors even cared about it. And the stuff that we kind of just, spoke about briefly, the jurors are like, man, I wish you would have told us more. And there was one part of my co-counsel's argument, and I caught on to it, and I brought him aside, and I said, hey, man, when we go to trial, you got to hit on this issue, because the minute you said that, I got to watch 20 people write stuff down. And if the jurors are writing, it's important. That means that something triggered them to say, you know what, I got to write that down. So we're going to remember that for trial. So the question and answer period was pretty crucial. And, when I talk to my friends that are lawyers, even our close friends and family, we don't really get that type of analysis in our case. They kind of know what to look for because we've been talking, about cases with them, especially our spouses, forever. So this is way more important. And if, it's definitely something positive in every criminal case going to trial, I think. But then the cool part came where the jurors broke off roughly 10 and 10, 2 panels of 10, and they got to go in a room and actually deliberate. 2 separate rooms. But in that room was a video camera, which they all knew about, with a line going into the other room, which is where I was sitting, and we got to see them talk about the case and deliberate and argue amongst each other and figure out what it is they were thinking as jurors about this case as a whole, as a group. And these people were adamant on finding the truth, finding guilt, finding innocence. And it was such an amazing thing to watch. In the end, they voted, and we talked about their vote, and we learned so much from this event. And I really am impressed with how much effort certainly I put in and my co-counsel put in, but the jurors themselves, the focus group, put in. And I'm very thankful for my person putting this event on, that person did it so perfectly. And I'm very grateful for my client for giving us the opportunity to do this, which ultimately benefits him. And that's what this exercise was for. And I'm very, very thankful and honored to represent my client in this particular case. So just a little briefing about what a focus group is. If you want to learn more, you can go to my website, georgiacrime.com, or you can email me, aj@georgiacrime.com. You can find me on social media. Mostly my handles are always georgiacrime.com. That's GeorgiaCrime. Thanks for listening. Take care.